you very much for joining us. Together with Dr. Mugume is Dr. Stella Kabiri, Senior Research Officer from the National Agricultural Research Organization. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here too.
Thank you very much. And of course, together with them is Dr. Alex Nimsima, a Senior Lecturer from the Department of Meteorology at the Makerere University, Kampala. Karibu, Doctor.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining me. And I think I will start with Dr. Mugume here. UNIMA. What's UNIMA? This is not one of, I think, the authorities of government that people are familiar with.
Thank you, sir. UNIMA is the Ugandan National Meteorological Authority. It is the authoritative voice on matters of weather, climate, and atmospheric pollution. Yeah, it is mandated to provide weather services to all Ugandans, to also manage the Ugandan airspace and contribute to the national development of Uganda.
You also call it airspace?
Yes, yes.
Ugandan airspace.
Yes.
So do you work with CA as well?
We provide the Civil Aviation Authority with the weather information, and we have branded it as Aeronautical Meteorological Services.
Aeronautical, yes.
That's what we provide them. These services encompass from routine reports. Every 30 minutes we are giving them weather information. And we also give them forecasts. We also give them pilot briefing services. The plane cannot fly without us providing weather information for that particular aerodrome.
And you do that every 30 minutes, you said?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
The routine report we give every 30 minutes, and we also give the forecast. What will happen in the next 30 minutes.
Okay.
It is given by us.
Okay. Dr. Stella, from NARO, let's first of all get the relationship and how you work with UNIMA in this case.
Oh, indeed, the National Agricultural Research Organization works with UNIMA a lot because with agriculture we need this weather information, and we are also carrying out a lot of research that is weather related. We develop varieties, drought resistant varieties, climate resilient varieties. So we have to work really closely with the meteorological, with UNMA.
Okay.
Yeah.
NARO, for example, now, let's just get to you. We want to see weather in agriculture itself, because we talk about agriculture, and when we talk about agriculture, to a normal common Ugandan, is agriculture is actually get a hole, go to the garden, dig, plant something, then that's where it is, or that's where it stops. And you've of course had lots of discussions talking about agriculture being a backbone to our economy, agriculture being the source of livelihood to all of us, agriculture being all the things. Let's just get to that itself. We want to see where is the role of weather in helping us manage agriculture, because to many of us, like I said, you only have a piece of land somewhere, and when it rains like it is doing now, you run to the garden to plow something. We do not know whether what we are actually putting in the garden is sustainable for the period to harvest time. Let's get to that. How do you come in as far as agriculture is concerned?
Okay, thank you. First of all, with agriculture, the agriculture we have in this country, most of it is rain-fed. We depend on rainfall. And like you have said, most of it has been on a speculative basis. You speculate, it's going to rain, let me plant. You're not sure whether it will rain or not, whether the rain that has started will be sustainable enough to continue the crop you have put in. And these days we find that it's very expensive to just sink money in the soil, and then you lose you lose your crop along the way. And this makes it very imminent to have these weather services when it comes to agriculture, mainly because our agriculture, most of it is rain-fed. One of the simplest examples that can happen on a field is you may apply fertilizers and then they are washed away in a rainstorm at night. But if a farmer knew that it's going to rain in the night, they would have prevented application of fertilizers last evening, which is a very expensive input. It's a very expensive resource to add, and you don't want to just lose it because of lack of this weather information knowledge.
Okay.
And secondly, we are also experiencing climate change in agriculture. It is here with us. I mean, nobody can even dispute it anymore. And of course, the rains, the patterns have changed. And farmers have also noticed that the patterns have changed. Almost everybody has noticed the patterns have changed. And that makes it really imminent that we have this weather information at the time and the moment when we need it quickly, because things are different. So it is very, very key to keep on working with UNMA when it comes to this. Some of the crops that we have been gladly growing for so many years and enjoyed may not survive climate change, because when the temperatures increase, temperatures can affect the physiology of a crop. For instance, it can affect the flowering stage or fruiting stage. So you may end up harvesting less than what you were harvesting in previous years. So as NAR also we do a lot of research on climate resilience varieties, and this can come in various forms. They can be short duration varieties that you plant during a short rainy season, and you're able to harvest. And then sometimes they can be drought resistant varieties which tolerate the drought. But we are also thinking of starting on heat resilient varieties also, because when the temperatures also increase, they need to be to have crops that also can tolerate higher temperatures. So there's a wide range of research that we are carrying out, and indeed all this research, we need this weather information to continue and have concrete results that can be able to serve the nation.
Okay, very important. Let me come to Dr. Alex Nimusima from the Department of Meteorology at Makerere University. Dr. Sel here explains something, and of course she talks about the rainfall patterns or the change in patterns that we see, which of course has also affected the amount of maybe the rainfall that we have. But we talk about development. Now, all of us looking at Uganda until maybe, well, by maybe 2040, we want to see that other country. There's a picture, there's a dream of Uganda that we want to see by that time. And now you from that particular side, I want to see how you come in to help us in this national development. For example, picking it from where Stella lives it, you notice that studies have been done. These are your researchers, these are your studies. Studies have been done from you, the experts, that for 1 hectare, for example, for 1 hectare, when you take a crop like maize, the predictions could be up to about 8,000, 9,000, I think, tons or whatever that is. But the reality, when we get to harvesting, for example, you notice that we lose about 90% and we can only harvest only a paltry 10%. From the meteorology department, where are you in this whole development, and what needs to be done, or what do we have to pick from you for the good of our development?
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, my colleagues, for starting this off. Generally, weather and climate information is applicable in different sectors of the economy. And when you're talking about weather and climate, it means different for different economic sectors. She has mentioned what they do in agriculture, but I'll just bring one example on infrastructure. Infrastructure development. You talked about Uganda's development by the year 2040. We are looking at Vision 2040. So when they are designing infrastructure projects, are they putting weather and climate information into this? I'll just give an example. From the research that we've been doing, already we are saying that with climate change, you are likely to have more extreme weather events, more flooding events, more drought events. So if you're building, say, a road in a particular area, are you putting this flooding into your planning? For example, if you are trying to design a drainage of, say 3-inch or 3 meters or 2 meters, and you know that predictions show that you're likely to have more rainfall or less rainfall. So are you putting this in your development, in your design, as you're designing this road? And I think that is where, as a nation, we need to be going. Because there is one study that we did that was looking at if you add adaptation, if you put adaptation to climate change in development, and if you don't put adaptation to climate change in development, what happens? We saw that the cost of adaptation may be high, if you're, for example, designing the road, as I said, it may be high in the short run, but in the long run, if you don't do anything, the costs you incur are going to be much, much more than what you spent. If you
very important, and I think you bring me to something that I very much are interested in. When you talk about the flooding, for example, our weather, we accept and know very well that it's susceptible to floods and drought. That's what our climate is like. Now, talking about national development itself, now look at Kampala, for example. When you look at Kampala, and the total area in Kampala, we have about 16,000 hectares of Kampala, which is actually built land, which is actually developed area, that we have buildings, we have roads, we have all the things, and when it rains. Now, still, these are studies that we read from you, and I think this is from, it's public information now with the KCCA when they talk about the flooding and the drainage in Kampala. They give statistics of how much floods we actually get on a season or so. You notice that whenever it rains in Kampala, they say we collect up to about 2 billion liters of water that keeps flooding around. And this means we can't have a drainage. We can't have trenches actually that can absorb all this water, because this water is running on buildings, it's running on tarmac, it's running on, and it can't actually get anywhere. And this is what we want to hear from all of you now. UNIMA, the Meteorology Department of Kampala, how do you help in such a situation? For example, looking at Kampala, on a day when it rains, everybody now starts thinking, how am I going to move out of here to actually go home? You know, the worries of now the flooded city. And we possibly think maybe enhancing and putting up drainages is what will solve the problem. But we've noticed that this is actually not solving the problems because of the too much water that keeps coming in here. So how should we manage such a scenario, a situation?
Thank you once again, moderator. By the way, the problem of Kampala is not too much rain. If you do the statistics and you look at the rainfall has not changed much in Kampala. We're still getting almost the same amount of rainfall. But the problem of flooding in Kampala is mainly onto the infrastructure and the way they design the household, the housing units, the roads. First of all, there is need to do that development that is looking at weather and climate information. So if you're designing the road, have you looked at, if you're going to get the culverts, have you looked at the size of the culverts? Are these culverts going to get to accommodate the storm that you are likely to have? And how do you compute this storm? Do you know the runoff, for example, in this area, if you're in YSA, okay, if you're in YSA, do you know the runoff in this area? So that as you're developing that road, as you're putting up that road, you put that into effect. But if you don't do that, then you're likely to have those problems.
Okay. That's very important. To you, Yunma now, the authority here, you notice that lately we've also seen an increase in water, especially on the lakes, Lake Victoria and all the others. We've seen the flooding where previously you could go to Entebbe and you had some lecture somewhere and you could see the water somewhere. You now get and see actually trees are in the middle of these lakes. Now they were not planted yesterday, but because of now the rising water levels. Let's talk about that and its sensitivity to our climate change. How is that affecting us and what needs to be done? Because there is no other way that we can actually reduce on the waters in the lake.
Thank you, moderator. The waters in the lake is a function of two things. One is abstraction, the volume also leaving, vis-a-vis also the amount that is coming in. Not really a significant change in amounts of rainfall over the Lake Victoria Basin, but now we are struggling with two issues, inlet and outlet. That's why when our president ordered for a change in the volumes of water leaving the Lake Victoria, there was somehow a decrease, a balancing down of the levels, but it caused a problem in the Kyoga Basin. So really for us as UNIMA, our interest there is to provide weather information that is timely and accurate. And we are doing it at different time scales with the different sophisticated equipments that we will have in place.
Naro, are you giving good information and timely information when you get weather information, timely weather information from the regulators here, UNMA? Are you giving this information timely to people because you are now for agriculture predominantly and specifically? When you talk about all the things, we negate the issues of flooding as Dr. Alex is talking about them. So like we talked earlier, when it starts raining, my mother in the village knows that it's time for me now to go and plow or plant something. Are you giving this information timely to our people in as far as agriculture is concerned?
Okay, this information is given by UNMA. Okay. And then it is also facilitated by the Ministry of Agriculture. To who have district production officers who take this information to the local people. However, we still feel there is still more that needs to be done in making this information more understandable to the lay person or the farmer, to understand it. Okay, it's going to rain on a certain day. What does that mean for me? What does it mean for my garden in a certain place X? What does it mean for the crop that I'm going to plant? For instance, if we have been told the rains will be short, then the decision the person can make is, will I grow a shorter duration variety? Or there will be a drought, should I look for a drought tolerant variety? Or the rains may not be very accommodative this time, let me change the business, or let me go into livestock this time around. So there is still that challenge of making this information if I use the word understandable to anybody who is who wants to grow. It's not only even the farmers in the rural areas, even the elites in town who are practicing agriculture, they also want to know, my farm is in Mbarara. What does the rain forecast in Mbarara have to do? So we were on a project with the Makerere University and UNMA, and they also developed an app where we can get this information. You can even just do it on your phone. It is *125#, and then you put the city, *125#. You put where you are, and then you get this information instantly. But it also has to be put in by somebody, and it also has to be facilitated.
What do you do as NARO now? Let the people know what NARO does.
NARO, we carry out research specifically. It is an agricultural research organization.
What do you research about?
So we have we research on various aspects of agriculture, from livestock to crops to fisheries, to even the social sciences, the people that we work with, and on this wide range of varieties, a lot of research has been done. A lot of scientific publications have been put up, a lot of information has been put up. But this information still needs, we are still synergizing it in a way that it can be digested by all stakeholders. And all stakeholders does not just mean NARO, the farmers, but including implementing partners, including UNMA. All this information has to be put together, the research that has been carried out, so that when we are tackling the issue of weather and climate change, it is a holistic kind of approach. And that is something that is still ongoing. And because we also develop a lot of changes each time something happens, then we are going into this kind of research. So they still need that kind of synergy when we are giving this information to farmers.
Dr. Alex, in national development, for example, today when you talk about development and you are discussing anything with a politician, we're now talking about the parish development model, we're now implementing our third national development plan, we talk about all these very good documents or policies that we have as a country. You notice that when you are talking to a politician or any other person in development, we of course will definitely run to NDP3 and say NDP3 is focusing to this and that and that. Where are you in these planning processes? For example, when we are doing a project, we are constructing or building the oil pipeline from Kabale to Tanga. We'll have all these environment impact assessment reports and quite a number of them, and that's when we hear about them. But I just want to know from you, now the Department of Meteorology, when we are doing all the things, we're building cities, we're building bridges, we're building roads, at what stage do you come in to also be part of the development?
Thank you, moderator, once again. Maybe before I answer your question, there's something I need to first explain to the public.
Sure.
When we are discussing about weather and climate issues, we need to do this in 3 ways.
Okay.
You're looking at the short term, you're looking at the medium term,
And the long term.
the long term. So when you're talking about the short term, that is maybe from today, from now, up to say 1 week or 2 weeks, that is where UNIMA comes in. They give you products within the short term.
Okay.
They are telling you it's going to rain tomorrow, it's not going to rain tomorrow, or if you're planning to spray, you need to plan to spray, and so on. When you go to medium term, now that is where NARO comes in. They're interested in information of the medium term. One wants to know what is the weather in the next 1 month, what is the weather in the next 3 months, in the next season, okay? So for you to do that, they are what you call the regional climate outlook forums. They normally sit because the weather knows no boundaries. You can't say, oh, this is our weather for Uganda. The atmosphere is not just static like that. Then when you're talking about the long term, now that is where the issues of climate change comes in. Issues of climate change, and now when you're discussing issues of climate change, then you bring in the conference of parties, like what you know, the next conference of the COP26, which is going to happen in Scotland. So they discuss weather and climate information at those 3 levels. So once you understand those 3 levels, then now if I'm talking to a politician, then I will explain weather and climate information basing on those 3 levels and in relation to the sector. Because as I mentioned earlier, weather information is different depending on the sector. If I'm, for example, in construction, okay? If I'm in construction, I may not be interested in, say, a daily forecast, or the daily forecast I may be interested in, but then I may be interested in the long term, what are the average rainfall that is received in this area, okay? Not tomorrow's rainfall. If you are in energy, you're interested in knowing how much water am I going to get in the next 3 or 4 months? Are the dams going to have enough water? Okay? So you look at it in that format. Now, going back to your question, you're saying, how are we in academia? How do we join? We work with government authorities.
Sure.
Okay? Like, for example, now we are working on the National Climate Change Communication, the 3rd National Climate Change Communication to the United Nations Convention on Climate Change. And they engage us as academia to provide research. Because we do research, as academia we do research, we do training and then outreach. So as they are developing these plans, as we are submitting our plans to the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, we as academia are included and our research is well reported in those things. Also in the national determined concentrations, to also the same UNFCCC.
Okay.
We are also involved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mugume here has found something tickling.
Yeah. Thank you, moderator, once more. When we talk of my colleague, Dr. Nimusima, in the Department of Geography, Geoinformatics and Climatic Sciences, it is the only department here in Uganda that is teaching meteorology as a discipline. It handles postgraduate diploma in meteorology. For those who don't have the meteorology discipline, bachelor's in meteorology, and also an applied master's in meteorology. On the UNIMA side, we contribute towards the capacity development. In the region, we are the only people having a school, National Meteorological Training School. Which
who are we now? We as a country, or you as well, you as the authority, it is you as a country. We in the region, you mean?
Yes, in the region.
It's not in Kenya, it's not in where?
No.
It's only in Uganda?
Yes.
Okay.
It trains very technical officers at certificate and diploma. So from there, then they come to Makerere. But now also on the National Development Plan 3, the planners have been kind with us. They have only given us 2 targets, but we think that we will even achieve much more. One of them is to increase automation that is meteorological instruments, automation, the network, from 30% to 80%. We are already at 62%. And we are moving even, I think in the medium term, we are looking at reaching a goal of around 90%, over and above beyond what they have stated for us. So the politicians are also interested in how much accuracy are we going to improve.
Accuracy, is actually coming to ask you about the accuracy, because
the goal
when you talk about predictions, then the accuracy levels are also very important to us.
Yeah, the goal has also put us at 80 to 90%.
Our accuracy?
Yes, the accuracy they want us to achieve. But with the modern technological innovations where we are moving, right now we have 3 radars covering the entire country. We are looking at hitting a 98% accuracy. And also even providing region specific. You see, we are now talking of parish development model.
Sure.
For us, we want to come in and start from sub-county level to now inform the parishes. Because to parish that will be too concentrated,
too small, too lower.
Yes, for us. But we already thinking in terms of handling a sub-county. And with the skills that we have, we can give you a weather forecast tailored for that particular sub-county.
Okay, very important. Dr. Stella, when you're from Narrow, of course, and when you look at agriculture and it's a development, are we on the right trajectory? Or you think there are certain things that we need to do better than what we are doing? And where do we project, where do we see, in terms of predictions, where do we see ourselves in agricultural development by maybe the next 20 years, by 2040?
Thank you. I think we are in the right trajectory at the moment. For instance, I'm impressed with our coffee production in the country. The coffee production has been increasing significantly in the last, at least in the last 5 years, and it is continuing to increase. But we need to work hand in hand with research a lot, because when issues of weather and climate continue, some of the, let me say, some of the pests that were not important start becoming important. And when we don't put research when we don't put research at the forefront of when we are dealing with agriculture and climate, we are likely to get major losses. One of the for instance, I can give an example of, say, weeds. You can have a weed that is already there in the ecosystem, but because the weather has changed, then it has become wetter. It probably prefers, wetter areas, and then it becomes the rainy season becomes so high that this weed starts growing more profusely without being checked by natural enemies. So it becomes an important, it becomes a very important weed when initially it wasn't, and same thing with pests. So when it comes to agriculture, we really have to, I cannot stress more that we really have to link this, we have to link research to go hand in hand with agriculture, and also hand in hand with any stakeholder that is involved in agriculture, and also in planning. Research has to come to the forefront for us to continue propelling agriculture forward in this country.
From the academia, Dr. Alex, how is our adaptation to climate change?
Thank you once again, moderator. Again, adaptation is also sector specific. Okay. There are several things that can be done to address the issues of climate and weather information. We are in an era of climate change, talking about climate change. She has told you about Narrow, that they are developing drought-resistant, for example, varieties. Okay, because we anticipate climate change anticipates that drought events are likely to increase. So as they are at the research organization, they are developing drought-resistant varieties. Then we have things like climate-smart agriculture. As you're doing agriculture, can you have these principles of climate-smart agriculture embedded in your agriculture? Then if you are in, say, water resources, are you using, say, water efficiency? Are you using water efficiently? okay, in order to conserve, because you know that because of increased temperatures, we are likely to have water scarcity, and so many other things have been done as far as climate and weather are concerned.
Okay. To you, Mr. Dr. Mugume.
Yes.
Dr. Mugume from UNIMA. I also want to know, because I think NARO is trying to do their bit, the academia just right there, but also from you. I'm looking at the people who get hooked up from you, the people who get from the people that you actually talk to, away from those others now, like Civil Aviation Authority. But I'm looking at the farmers, this other side, the information that you keep giving. For example, we have a weather program on TV here, where somebody comes and says, the weather tomorrow is, and they give these predictions. We expect so much rainfall in this area, we expect so much rainfall in this area. Do you think that the information that you give as UNIMA is actually information that is easily understood by the consumers, by the people that you give this information to?
Thank you, moderator. The weather information that we give, we try to tailor it to the muntu wa wansi, to everyone to understand. And you could appreciate that it is a continuous process of explaining to our final mile, the final end user, what it means. So we have also some terms over through engagement with the different communities that we have made deliberate efforts to explain what it means. And I will give you an example. For example, if we are talking in terms of a season and we give above normal rains expected for this season, we are meaning that if you know that you have been having, for example, flooding cases in around mild or generally the season, that's how it happens, or around this time it rains and maybe it is wet everywhere. Above normal means that now when it impacts in the episodes, the floods will be more pronounced. So we have labored to explain on a day-to-day basis, and that's why even we try to also interpret into local languages our seasons, and we give in different languages, Luganda, Swahili, maybe Runyoro should also come sometime. So that is a deliberate effort to make sure that they understand whatever we are giving. But we also have even different channels. She has explained that we have a weather information dissemination system where we can allow you to log into the system and get even the weather that you want at any time. And we are giving this information after every 6 hours, 24 hours, and even an extended outlook. And we are even telling, we are in final touches with the Uganda Communication Commission. Yes, to get us a specialized code such that when you want to travel to Soroti, before even going there, you dial a code and you already know the weather happening in Soroti, such that you can reach there safely, not to jump out of your car or a taxi and it is raining on you because you didn't.
Okay. Yeah, that's important. But Stella, Dr. Stella here talked about a code that's 126 or something. There is that particular code, and I just want to know why. Because I traveled to a country called New Zealand sometime, and when I got there, because New Zealand has a problem of earthquakes, and when I moved from one city of Auckland to go to another city called Christchurch, on my phone, they actually had to prep me and to give me an app to keep telling me where earthquakes are. I could actually tell that if I'm going to UBC, then there might be an earthquake there at maybe lunchtime. So I rather not go to UBC and find myself going to another place. And I think what you talk about here is a very good thing. But you talked about some code. What does that do to us? How does it help us if I didn't watch TV to actually know that it will rain in Tororo today and I'm driving to Tororo?
Yeah, thanks. That code, we have pre-tested it with Makerere. It has been handled by the project called Wimeya ICT, another project called Locate, then another project called Imagine to perfect this code. And I can tell you that the code works perfectly, very fine. It is the code now that we are now interesting the UCC to give us a specialized code. But why now the UCC code where you are just keying in and not the app? That could be what we are talking about.
USSD code. It's called the USSD
yes,
code.
USSD code, and not the app. what drove to this was the research to first see the omuntu wa wansi what is most applicable for him or her.
All of them don't have smartphones.
Yes, but now where we are moving to, as we finalize talks with UCC on this, we are now entering into another negotiation to now design an app tailored for Uganda where you can get this. And I also want to tell you that this is not the only thing we are doing. We are also partnering with the again Makerere to even inform pollinator things, how they will happen using weather information. So pollinator bees, and she understands it better than me. But yes, all those. So using weather information, then you can trap up how these are going to move.
Oh, okay, very finally from all of you, I'll start with Dr. Alex. Finally, your final message, but also answering my BTM. How is the political will from now, the political leadership? Do we have the goodwill from them to do the best weather for our national development, as you saw close down?
If I answer your question, I need to say this as well. Where we are located close to the equator. Sometimes we take things for granted. We think because we have our nice weather, God has provided us with nice weather. We are in a region where mean temperatures don't go beyond say 28 degrees Celsius. So we don't have those extreme heat. But when you are in high latitudes, you are saying Europe, in the US, they take weather issues seriously. Because God has blessed us with this weather, sometimes we take it
for granted. It happens for us.
Okay? But as we develop, we need to mainstream these weather and climate issues in our development agenda. As he mentioned about NDP3, they have put a few things about weather and climate, but even other sectors, they need to add on and make sure that weather and climate information is mainstreamed in all development projects as a country.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alex Nimsima. Finally from you, Dr. Stella, in just 1 minute. Your final comment.
Okay, my final comment is we need to have these policies in terms of climate and weather streamlined, whereby we have evidence-based research where researchers are able to explain some results to policymakers, and then the policymakers are able to make policies based on this evidence-based research when it comes to weather. I think if we follow that kind of trajectory, we shall not be caught unawares when we are all working together to synergize to come up with working policies, but also working policies in terms of climate and weather.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Stella. And finally from you, Dr. Mugume.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. First of all, I want to thank and appreciate my officers in the field, monitoring the weather on day-to-day, every minute, every time, including those on the desk looking at the systems to help us predict the weather. And I want to encourage our viewers and members of the public to visit us, talk to us as quite as often as you can, because even the president often calls us to get to know what weather is and what, especially wherever he is or they are traveling en route. So if you are moving by transport, road transport, water, please talk to us. Our forecasts are dependable. And finally, since today is the World Cerebral Palsy Day, we want to say that weather services, we are at the center of everything, including health. We want to wish them good health. And very, very, very finally, to say that weather services have the potential to spur both economic and sustainable development of our country.
Well, I want to thank all of you. Thank you very much. Dr. Isaac Mugume, the Director for Forecasting Services from the Ugandan National Meteorology Authority. Yuma, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Stella Kaviri. She's a Senior Research Officer from NARO. And thank you so much, Dr. Alex Mugume. I beg your pardon, Alex Nimsima, a Senior Lecturer from the Department of Geography and Meteorology at the Makerere University. I thank you, all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for having allowed to join us this morning. And we'll just stop this here now. But just as we go out of studios, we want to leave you with the Commander-in-Chief files here today. And it's about decentralization, where President Museveni was stipulating the advantages of a decentralization and the local authorities. By that time, the RCs, which we now today call the local councils, this was at the international conference center, which is of course today at the current Serena Hotel. We leave you with that as we also sign out, wishing you all the best for today, for God and my country, wishing you a very blessed Independence Week. For God and my country, good morning.
Thank you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Thank you.